Beginning, the grave on Ardent 9. The rain on Ardent 9 did not fall like water. It shimmered. Each droplet fractured the dim violet light of the planet's twin moons, breaking into prismatic shards before touching the ground. The colonists called it ghost rain, beautiful, cold, and faintly radioactive. It soaked into the soil of the memorial field where stone markers stood in perfect rows, each engraved with a name, a service number, and a cause of death that rarely told the full truth. Dr. Alara Voss knelt before one of those stones. Her knees sank into the wet soil, staining the pale fabric of her coat. She did not notice. She hadn't noticed much of anything since the war ended. The gravestone was simple. Commander Kale Wren, United Human Defense Fleet. Mia, presumed dead. For Earth and her children. Alara pressed her gloved fingers against the cold stone as if warmth might somehow seep through it. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible beneath the whispering rain. "I should have overridden the command. I knew the signal was unstable. I knew it." Her breath trembled. "I didn't save you." Around her, the memorial field remained silent. The war with the Threxian Concord had ended 6 months earlier. And this planet, once a forward medical hub, had been converted into a burial world. Thousands of markers stretched into the mist, each one representing a loss humanity barely survived. Kale Wren's marker was the one she visited every week. Alara had been the fleet's leading Xenotech engineer, responsible for integrating alien technology into human warframes. Kale had been the test pilot, the man who trusted her machines with his life. And on the final day of the war, she had failed him. The mission had been impossible. Penetrate the Threxian command sphere, disable its quantum core, and escape before the sphere folded in on itself. Kale had volunteered without hesitation. He always did. The last transmission Alara received was fragmented, static, radiation interference, and Kale's voice cutting out mid-sentence. "Alara, cores destabilizing faster than predicted. Tell Earth." Then nothing. The sphere collapsed into a singularity, and Kale Run vanished from every sensor known to humanity. Presumed dead, Alara bowed her head, pressing her forehead against the stone. "I built the interface," she said softly. "I told you a hold, and you believed me." The rain shimmered around her. Behind her, footsteps sank into the wet soil. Alara didn't hear them. Middle, the man who should not exist. Kale Wren stood 3 meters behind her. Alive, he looked at the woman kneeling at his grave. The woman who had once argued with admirals for his safety, who had once stayed awake for 72 hours straight recalibrating his neural link because she'd noticed a 1% delay. She looked smaller now. Her shoulders were tense, her posture bent inward like someone carrying too much weight for too long. The confident scientist he remembered had been replaced by someone worn thin by guilt. Kale flexed his gloved hand. The glove was not human. Neither, strictly speaking, was he anymore. After the collapse of the Threxian command sphere, Kale had not died. Instead, he had been pulled into the null fold, a region of compressed space-time the Threxians used for faster-than-light computation. His warframe had shattered, his body torn apart at the molecular level. He should have ceased to exist. But the Threxians had found him, or rather, what remained of him. They had rebuilt him, not as a prisoner, not as a soldier, but as an experiment. Human consciousness fused with Threxian phase matter, stabilized within a lattice of living technology. He had spent months, maybe years. Time behaved strangely in the fold, learning to exist again, learning to control a body that could step between states of matter, learning what it meant to be other. When the war ended, the Threxian Concord collapsed. Their central intelligence shattered, and their experiments were abandoned, including Kale. He escaped, and when he returned to human space, The fleet didn't know what to do with him. Officially, Commander Kale Run was dead. Unofficially, he had been placed in deep quarantine, interrogated, studied, feared. Until yesterday. Yesterday, Kale had stolen a shuttle and flown himself to Arden 9. To this grave. I didn't ask you to save me. Alara froze. Her breath caught painfully in her chest. That voice. Slowly, impossibly, she turned. Kale stood there, rain shimmering off a dark, unfamiliar armor that seemed to breathe softly with light. His face was older, sharper, threaded faintly with glowing lines that pulsed beneath his skin like distant stars. But it was him. Her mind rejected the sight instantly. No, she whispered. This is a hallucination. The grief meds. Still allergic to denial, Kale said gently. Some things never change. Alara scrambled backward, slipping into mud before catching herself. Her heart hammered so violently she thought it might tear free. You're dead, she said. I saw the collapse. The readings were accurate, Kale replied. Just incomplete. He stepped closer, careful, as if approaching a frightened animal. Alara, he said, and her name and his voice shattered the last of her defenses. She surged to her feet and slapped him. The sound echoed across the memorial field. Her hand trembled where it hovered in the air between them. If you're a ghost, she said hoarsely, you're solid enough to hurt. Kale touched his cheek, then smiled faintly. That answers that. Her knees buckled. He caught her instantly, stronger than she remembered, arms steady as she collapsed against him. For a moment, Alara didn't breathe. She clutched the front of his armor, fingers digging into the unfamiliar surface. You're alive, she whispered. I am, Kale said. Mostly. She laughed, a broken sound that dissolved into sobs. I buried you. I stood here for 6 months and apologized to a stone. I heard, he said softly. She pulled back, staring at him through tears. How could you hear me? Kale glanced at the gravestone. I've been here before, he admitted. Just not where you could see me. The truth of the fold. They sat together on a low stone bench at the edge of the memorial field. The rain had slowed, the ghostly droplets evaporating before reaching the ground. Alara listened as Kale told her everything. The null fold, the Threxian reconstruction, the way his body now existed in overlapping states, partially anchored to normal space by technology she barely understood. You're phase stabilized, she said, cutting through her shock. This lattice, it's self-repairing. It's beautiful. Glad you approve, Kale said dryly. The fleet didn't. Alara's expression darkened. They kept you hidden. They were afraid, Kale said. And maybe they should be. He lifted his hand and let it slip through the edge of the bench, solidifying again a moment later. I'm not entirely human anymore. Alara reached out without thinking and took his hand. It felt warm, real. Neither is half the fleet after the war, she said firmly. You're alive. That's what matters. Kale studied her face, then nodded. That's what I hoped you'd say. Silence settled between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. I blame myself, Alara said quietly. Every day. I know, Kale replied. But you shouldn't have. I designed the interface that failed, and I chose to fly it, Kale said. We both knew the risks. She looked down at their joined hands. If I had delayed the launch, Earth would have burned, Kale interrupted gently. The Concorde was hours from activating the core. We won because we didn't hesitate. Alara swallowed hard. For what it's worth, Kale added, your work saved me. She looked up sharply. What? The neural interface you designed, he said. It mapped my consciousness in a way the Threxians could latch on to. Without it, there would have been nothing left to rebuild. Tears spilled down her cheeks again, but this time they were different. You save yourself, she whispered. Because you taught me how, he replied. Ending, a future unwritten. The sun rose over Ardent, 9 in a blaze of pale gold, burning away the last of the mist. Alara stood once more before Kale's gravestone. This time, she wasn't alone. She traced her fingers over the engraved name, then smiled faintly. "This needs to be changed," she said. Kale crossed his arms. "Think they'll let me file a complaint from beyond the grave?" She laughed. It felt strange, like using muscles she hadn't exercised in months. "They'll have to," she said. "You're not a ghost. You're evidence of survival, of adaptation, of a future humanity had never planned for." As they walked away from the memorial field together, Alara glanced back one last time. She had knelt here in sorrow, whispering apologies to the dead. Now, the man she mourned walked beside her, alive, changed, and carrying a future as uncertain as it was possible. And for the first time since the war ended, Alara Voss felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope.